Titans are on back-to-back losses, but have beaten the Jags 9 of the last 10 meetings, and they've also won 8 straight home games against the AFC South. They haven't lost to the Jags at home, Tank, since November of 2013, which is pretty crazy. Do you think that trend continues?
See, this is another game where you have to zoom out and look at the macro narratives because we were talking about Trevor Lawrence possibly taking a step. Like this dude looked like
Mm-hmm.
sunshine against the Baltimore
I said
Ravens, and
that.
then the damn right, and the sun never came up against those Detroit Lions. Like that game was ugly. And then you have a
Yeah.
Titans team that are licking their wounds and they need to find their identity. I believe like inside that locker room, like Mike Vrabel, like is one voice and I think the guys like know the marching orders that they're stomping to. But you can tell that there was some friction between Vrabel and John Robinson, and maybe some of that trickled down towards the team and losing a player like
Mm-hmm.
AJ Brown, who they felt was one of their better players, and they didn't want to retain one of their better players that they drafted. Maybe some of that threw off the chemistry within that team. I'm not sure. So maybe when you get rid of that
Mm-hmm.
element from the organization, maybe kind of rally together and say, "Hey, we're all for one another right now." Maybe that's going to be the mantra. But that being said, in order to try to right a ship and go against a divisional rival, where if you just think back to the last time, like every time the Titans play the Jaguars, what are you accustomed to seeing? Like Derrick Henry breaking off 70, 80-yard
Yeah.
runs and just stiff arming the hell out of people and then hitting his head on the goalpost. So is it going to be one of those get right games where Tennessee gets back on track at home and Derrick Henry just has this blow up game? Or the Jacksonville Jaguars actually, for real, did they actually turn the corner and Trevor Lawrence can take advantage of a Tennessee pass defense that has been one of the worst in the league? I have no idea what the hell is going to happen in this game because we've seen the parity in this league. Like everything changes week to week, and with it being a divisional game on top of that, I'm not going to be able to project what's going to happen. But I would say that 42 and a half, Jared likes to talk about those key numbers. I'm trying to get hip to your game. That sounds
Let's
kind of low
go.
to me. And when you have two teams that should be motivated coming off of two really bad losses, maybe we get some points in this
Mm-hmm.
game. Maybe we get over that key number. So maybe give me the over in this one. Now that I kind of talk it through.
Love it.
Yeah, Derrick Henry, he's always solid against Jacksonville. Over the last 6, Jared, he's averaged 145 rushing yards per game and gone over 200 rushing yards twice. And he's had 12 touchdowns over those last 6 games. I know the Eagles shut him down last week. He's going to be hungry this week, and the Jags give up the 8th most rushing yards over the last 3 games, 139 yards per game. Is this a spot where King Henry can retake over, the throne? Because last week he was definitely dethroned against the Eagles.
Yeah, like we said during that Eagles Giants handicap, I was so impressed with how Jonathan Gannon schemed up 8 in the box, but still able to stop the pass and make Ryan Tannehill really off balance. I don't know if Jacksonville's defense is going to have the same success this week. Now, I'm glad you mentioned the recent success, for Henry, because overall the for the Jaguars rushing defense, because overall this season as a whole, the Jaguars actually are pretty good against the run. They're terrible against the pass, 31st in DVOA against the pass, but 13th against the run.
Mm-hmm.
So if you were going to ask me, do they have a fighter's chance to stop the run? Sure, their numbers against the run this year have been good, but Derrick Henry last year in this game went off for $130 and didn't really have any issues. So we'll see what the scheme looks like. I will bring to your attention a very important practice nugget that thankfully dropped before we came on the show. Trevor Lawrence did not practice on Wednesday. It's a foot injury. Doug Peterson says day-to-day questionable. Obviously, that will throw a massive monkey wrench into this market. You would likely see that total drop significantly. I actually don't know who the Jaguars' backup is,
CJ Beathard.
but that's obviously – there you go, CJ Beathard, who actually has had a little bit of success in the NFL of late. So maybe that won't be a dramatic drop-off like we've seen in other starting to backup situations. But obviously, if Trevor Lawrence doesn't play – that's huge.
Mm-hmm.
The other element to this game, Mike Vrabel, back-to-back losses. 6-1-1 against the spread off 2 losses in his career. So, usually he's a coach, and we talk about his divisional record, very good, 11-7 against the number as a divisional favorite. We talk about his record as an underdog, which has also been very good until the last couple of games, right? But also, when they've lost consecutive games in a row, he's just a coach, narratively speaking, that is able to get his guys up for games, even if they're struggling, which clearly right now over the last 2 games,
Yeah.
they've played well below odds maker expectations, especially last week, which was just, I mean, when they've lost this year, they've lost big. The game to Buffalo, the game to Philly. So I'm fascinated to see how he bounces back with his scheme and how this overall effort level is for this Titans team. But obviously the Trevor Lawrence injury is going to be the big indicator here with where this market moves. So I don't really think it makes sense to handicap this game too deeply until we know who's playing quarterback for Jacksonville, which we probably won't know now until Friday or Saturday at the absolute early.